I'm talking to you from Oak Park, Illinois, and happy to be taking part in this virtual career day. My background began in journalism when I was just a little bit older than eighth graders who are watching this now. I was actually finishing up my 10th grade when I started writing for my hometown newspaper in the suburbs of Boston. And for over 20 years, I pursued a career as a journalist, as a newspaper reporter primarily. And then in 2006 or so, when I was 37, I shifted out of journalism and into a career that is, to this day, a combination of public relations, communications, training, anything to do with telling stories, really. And the journalism background really laid the foundation for that, and I'll be touching on that a little bit as I go. There's a saying about journalism that it's the first draft of history. And if you are like me, your first draft of anything isn't nearly as good as the second, third, or whatever the eventual final version is. And so that's what this video is going to be like. It's going to be maybe a little bit chaotic at times. It's going to resemble what is part of the storytelling process, the journalism process. Actually, this is a story that was written about me when I was a senior, just graduating from high school, about aiming for a career in journalism. This is from 1986. That's me in the baseball cap. I look probably a little bit older today. And but a couple of years earlier from that point, I walked into a converted barn, a farmhouse, where the local newspaper was situated, and I introduced myself to the editor, and I said, I want to write for you. And she said, great, write me something. And within 2 days, I turned in an essay that she published the next week. And then 2 months later is when I got paid for the first time as a journalist, and covering a tennis player from my high school who was a two-time state champion. And that just where I went from there. And I'd written hundreds of stories for the newspaper before I went to college. And one of the things that I would emphasize is that you don't have to wait to be a journalist. You can be a journalist at any age. There's no licensing required. There's no age minimum. And so you can get going yesterday on that. And so don't feel like you need to get anyone else's permission. And as you'll hear from me, a lot of journalism is really asking questions and pursuing stories that a lot of times people won't want you to pursue. For whatever reason, it'll either be embarrassing to them or won't make them look very good. But if it's something that is honest and fair and is important, go for it. And so I'm now going to try to follow the guidelines that Principal Tracy sent to me. So let's see. So my name is Matt Barron. My career field I mentioned. My current title is I'm the owner and solo practitioner of Inside Edge Public Relations and Media Services here in Oak Park, Illinois, which is just west of Chicago. My role is to help serve my clients. Just today I was working on a news release for a client that is an online pharmacy called healthwarehouse.com. And what I did for them is tell the story of how they're helping ensure that people who need hydroxychloroquine can get it. And as you may know from the saga with COVID-19, the President of the United States and others are saying how this particular drug could really be helpful for treating COVID-19. There's been no studies that have affirmatively confirmed that. And so despite that, a lot of people have been ordering and basically stocking up on this, and it's causing a challenge for people with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune diseases and other issues. They've had a hard time accessing what they've been getting for a long time. And so the company that I'm working with is working to get the word out about what they're doing to ensure that anyone who needs it, based on these other physical situations that they have, can get it. And so in that case, last night I started working on writing that, and then I went through 7 versions with the marketing officer at the company to really fine tune it, make sure we were really laying in the information that was necessary, coordinating with a few other entities that are interested in partnering with Health Warehouse, etc. And then later today or tomorrow, that news release is going to get out online. And then from there, we're going to do more to help promote that, raise awareness through the media and through social media so that more people are aware of that situation and the ability for people to access that kind of those types of pharmaceuticals for their needs. And so that's an example of what I do, though, is it's a lot of writing, rewriting, editing, asking questions, getting information, searching online, trying to understand the best way to tell a story in as few words as possible. The educational pathway to my career was through college. I went to Northwestern University, to the journalism school there, which actually the first seed for that was I had a 5-week summer program between my junior and senior years of high school that I attended at Northwestern University. It was on the campus there. It's called the National High School Institute. And I'd already been writing for my hometown newspaper for a year at that point, and was excited about doing that. And it really was transformative to really help me grow in that endeavor and to understand that that's the career path I wanted to pursue. Credentials or licenses, there's none. So I didn't even have to go to college to do what I'm doing, though college certainly helped. And it helped me understand a lot of the fundamentals of journalism and sharpen those skills, develop a network of people that over time I've been able to connect with and get business from, give business to. The typical process to earning these credentials. So it's really, it's show, don't tell. Show what you can do through the process of telling stories as a journalist. And as far as advice I would give to anyone interested in this field, whether you're in 8th grade or at any age, is really to ask a lot of questions, to be inquisitive, to be a lifelong learner, to read from a lot of different sources. To also, there's a saying in my journalism school, they said, if your mother tells you she loves you, check it out. And by that, the point was, don't take anything at face value. Question, understand what's the source of this information. Is it trustworthy? Is it reliable? Is it something that actually is going to be in the end something that you can stand behind and say, yes, this is something solid. Now, just because I said earlier it's the first draft of history doesn't mean it should be a sloppy draft. So it just means that there's always a process of a story evolving and more versions later that can come. Okay, so what I love most about it is the ability to have met a lot of different people over my career and to learn things and to feel like I'm making a difference by illuminating the truth about whatever situation. I've covered courthouses and police and all sorts of calamities, murder, and some real negative things. I've also covered a lot of sports. I met LeBron James through this when I reported for Time magazine. I got to do a lot of research and some statistics columns for Sports Illustrated for Kids almost 20 years ago, meeting a lot of very interesting people, and also people that no one has ever heard of but are also interesting, right? It's not just the famous, it's also the everyday people, and just the importance of this job. It's really something that doesn't necessarily pay as much as a lot of other things that you could do, especially for the level of skill that is required. But I will say that when I segued from journalism into PR and communications, that ability to tell a story as a journalist served me very well in this role. Now that I'm doing mostly PR and telling stories from the standpoint of a company or an organization, a lot of those same standards apply. It's just a matter of how to focus the story in a certain direction to help tell the story of a certain organization. Techniques or goals that help me get along the way. It's the number one currency that I trade in when I was a journalist and now as a publicist is trust. On every dollar bill, any currency in our country, it has this 4-word phrase somewhere in it. Where is it? It's something on the back here, right? It says, "In God we trust." Now, when people are dealing with me or anyone else in the world who's in charge of telling your story, they need to know that they can trust you to do it well, to do it fairly, to be responsible with it, to be accurate, to be diligent. And one of the first steps of credibility is to spell things correctly, right? And mistakes happen, but there's ways of minimizing those mistakes by double checking your work, having other people review it for you, etc. This job, how it relates to my interests. Right now I'm writing a column on sports statistics, on baseball statistics for a newspaper here called the Daily Herald. And one of my passions is numeracy, mathematical literacy, training people on how to think about numbers and statistics and data and in conjunction with storytelling. And so for 19 years, I've been training people all across the country on how to think about and to look at and interpret and communicate numbers when they come in any story. So whether it's sports or a crime or the budget of your local city, numbers are everywhere. And so that's another area that I've developed. And being self-employed now for 21 years, I've developed a lot of different projects and different sub-businesses to my main business. And so that's what I love, is the flexibility, the freedom I have to call the shots and to decide which way I go on any given day, week, month, or year, within reason. Because if I find I'm doing things in a certain direction that aren't working and not paying the bills, I have to shift. And so that's an important principle, is to be really open to the marketplace and to the potential to make money through a different way, through a different channel of operations. What other jobs are in my field? Anything to do, so this graphic design is important, website design, search engine optimization. So a lot of what I do is I create content, and there's other people who make sure that that content gets seen by the world through search engines like Google. Let's see, what do I find unique about my career? I guess every day is different. And even though a lot of the things that I'm doing are the same or similar, where the work is coming from and who the audience is that's going to be seeing my work can really vary from day to day, from one person to potentially millions of people. And so I try to treat all my work as if everyone's going to see it, because I want to have a high standard. Most memorable experience on my job, one real memorable experience was in the late 1990s into early 2000. I helped, through my reporting, shine a light on a situation where someone was convicted of murder and sentenced to 50 years in prison. And through the really hard work of attorneys who were drawn to the case through my reporting, he eventually was freed from prison about 5 or 6 years after going to prison, maybe even less. So that was very rewarding to know that I made an impact in someone's life like that. And then there's other instances along the way, so many memories. My website, which is insideedgepr.com, actually has a lot of writing on there, a lot of blog posts, a lot of experiences there that anyone can look up if you're interested. And also, I guess one last thing I will share in the interest of trying to keep this somewhat brief is that if anyone wants to contact me, feel free to do so. I'd be happy to answer questions, provide more advice, and you can reach me at the following email, matt@insideedgepr.com. That's INSIDEEDGEPR.com. And I wish you all the best. You're going through some really crazy times now with COVID-19. We all are, but I'm just really encouraged that through this, we're all going to be better off because of the things that we have in common through it, and the empathy that we're going to grow from it, and just the ability to persevere and to do things that aren't always that fun, but sometimes that's what you got to do. And that's true in so many jobs and careers out there. And so good luck to you all, and take care to Principal Tracy and to all the teachers and staff there. Carry on and take care.